Joe Biden is the weakest incumbent probably since Jimmy Carter, and he's probably weaker than Jimmy Carter right now. And the people who are getting into the race, like Cornel West, is better than the opponents that got into the race when Jimmy Carter was. So this is going to be really bad. But let's set the scene with at least the polling. This is Meet the Press.
We have a brand new NBC News poll that we are releasing this morning, and in it, voters are deeply dissatisfied with the direction of the country. They're concerned about the mental and physical well-being of President Biden. But the story of the last 4 years is still true today. And in this poll, the best thing for a Biden re-election campaign continues to be the presence of Donald Trump. Just 20% of voters believe this country is headed in the right direction. 74% say the nation is on.
Nick, you know how bad that is? Like, if you're looking at this poll historic, this is one of the things they've been taking for, I think, 20 or 30 years, maybe more. This specific question, two options or a few options. And it's rare. Like, this president has been in the 70s his entire time. But yet, if you turn on corporate media, they're telling you he's doing great. Inflation reduction rate. He's doing great. He worked out a deal to avert a debt ceiling. But it's not translating in their own polling. And it's probably worse than this because, they're cherry picking stuff during some of these polls to make it look as good as he don't. Because I don't think Joe Biden is at 43% approval rating. I think he's in the 30s. But they know where to go to ask the questions to get the best result. You get what I'm saying? They know not to come down to Compton and ask nobody about no damn Joe Biden. They know not to come down in your neck of the woods or Detroit or Orlando or Boston and say, hey, what's up with Joe Biden? Because they know which areas to go. And even in those cherry-picked areas, Nick, his polling is abysmal. Abysmal. And let's continue.
Was on the wrong track. Let me tell you something about this moment. We have had this sustained period of 70%, about a year now. The last two periods in the history of this poll that we've had this kind of sustained negativity about the direction of the country was before the 92 election and before the 2008 election. Both of those changed the party controlling the White House. Now, let's get into more of the poll. Biden's job rating.
You notice how this is a propaganda report lesson also, because the language they choose to describe when Joe Biden is doing bad versus when Trump. And he says, you notice he says, in both of those elections, 92, and I think he said 2008, it changed the people in the office. Why didn't he just say, Joe Biden is in trouble because he's going to lose this election? You see how they prevent, it's a psychological thing, if you can roll with me without me going a full explanation, but it's a psychological thing that you can say you can talk about the same thing, 43%, and you can describe it one way that comes off as softer, or you can describe it another way. Now, if this was just Donald Trump, they would say, yeah, he's doing terrible. Look at his terrible numbers. That's not the way they're going to describe it for Joe Biden. Go ahead, Nick.
And another thing to consider as well, because it's too bad that Nikki Haley is running a joke of a campaign that stands no chance, because she has one of the best strategies running against Biden. I don't know if you guys know, she made controversy in headlines when she said, I'm not running against Biden. He's old as hell. He's going to die. And then liberals voted down because they was like, you're so mean. And then she's like, no, I don't give a fuck. My strategy is I'm running against Kamala Harris. I don't know if you guys missed that whole thing, but it was a thing in the news for a while. And Nikki Haley since has been like, yo, I don't care if you guys get mad at me. It's statistically proven that Biden is most likely to die in office. So as Republicans, we need to run against Kamala Harris.
Wow.
Now, why do I bring this up? And I'm literally just quickly interjecting this, and we get back to the video. Absolutely. You got Biden's horrible numbers, and you got Kamala Harris, who sets the record low for vice president net favorability. Imagine being worse than Dick Cheney. It might piss. Kamala did it. So if the Trump campaign, which I think they will, if they adopt Nikki Haley's strategy, like if you guys start paying, you see she's doing this. Well, she's tagging Kamala. She's like, no, Biden's not going to be there. I don't give a fuck. I think that's going to be a devastating strategy because Kamala is baffling how bad of a politician she is. I put the video back up.
It may be an effective strategy, though. Effective in the sense that because people hate. The reason is kind of genius because her polling is worse.
Yeah.
So if you run against her polling, which is in the 30s, I think 33, 32 or something like that, or maybe it's an updated number in that article you had. If you run against that, it's an even better chance. So I mean, it's kind of good, but the problem is it's coming from Nikki Haley, so it's not, you know.
Yeah, that's why I say that you need someone who actually stands a chance that is doing this. And I'm just showing a receipt here. This is Nikki Haley mocked Biden for his age, predicting that he'll die in 5 years and won't live to see the end of the second term. You can see the kind of cope in this headline as well. And the thing is, when Nikki Haley said it, she was like, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm literally just giving you, there's a good chance, there's a good chance that men die between the age of 81 and 86. Statistically, there's a good chance he's going to die. And then you see it was melting down. Anyway, let me put the video back up.
He cannot, man.
That strategy is going to be devastating because she's hitting on an issue that I actually tell people be careful about when you guys talk about Biden's age, because there's so many worse things you can talk about than that. It's something that liberals want you to talk about is his age. So you can be like, oh, you just criticize him just for his age. So I think it's a trap. But according to polls, it's a legitimate issue. Like the vast majority of Americans are worried about Biden's. I think I saw a poll where it was like 60% worried about his age. So not only is it a good way to get Americans to focus on something that they care about, even though they shouldn't, it also gives them to focus on someone they hate, like Kamala Harris. So it's actually a great strategy. Nikki Haley can't pull it off because she's a joke of a candidate. I have a segment I may do on Nick at Night. She's literally running as a George Bush Republican. So she made this ad that's extremely unhinged level hawkish on China. So she's like, I'm gonna beat Trump being a fucking neocon. So anyway, she's not serious, but it is a good strategy against the Democrats that Trump may pick up, or Ron DeSantis may pick up. But go ahead, CJ. You can.
And welcome to those that just joined us on Rumble. It was some glitches on Rumble, and I finally got it fixed, and I think we're live now on Rumble. So welcome. Cool. Sorry for the late. You came in about 30 minutes after we started, but you didn't miss too much. But back to this video, full panic mode is what corporate media and cable news is, in print media also. And also all of the, the minions, all of the K-hives, they're all kind of on a downward spiral. And let's finish this video out because there's a couple of more case study videos to cover.
Sits at just 43%, about where it's been since the withdrawal from Afghanistan. 53% disapprove. A full 68% of voters, including 43% of Democrats now, which is twice what it was in 2020, say they are concerned that Biden does not have the necessary mental and physical health to be president. For what it's worth, when we ask the same question about Donald Trump, who's just a couple of years younger than Joe Biden, a majority also have concerns, but it is 55%, a full 13 points lower.
Look at that, Nick. That is amazing. So that's essentially 7 out of 10 people are saying this guy, this guy, Like, and is this Democrats? Let me make sure. Oh no, I think this is everybody. So 68% of people is speaking to this, and to your point earlier, the reason why I do hate when we bring up the age stuff is because it dilutes the critique of Joe Biden.
Yeah, there's a reason why Democrats bring it up.
Yeah, it's because like we should be critiquing him all the bad stuff, but you just mad at his age. Look at you, like it's like infantile. It's to sort of say your critiques of him are infantile. They're not based in any sort of real critique of his policy, and that's why they do that.
You guys know it's like, and I'm not even saying it's like critiquing his age is not legit. I think that's a legit criticism, but that's like bottom of the like. Right. You guys know I never talk about it. Like there's so many things to talk about regarding Biden except his age, and that's why all the corporate news shift to that first. Americans concerned about his age. What about the fact that Americans are mad that he didn't give us $2,000 checks? How about the fact that he literally expanded the military-industrial complex and nobody wanted? But they can't leave with that, so they leave with what's comfortable for them to talk about, which is age. So then the liberals can come out like, "Oh my God, there's a problem with ageism in our society. Look how old Donald Trump is." There's another effective tactic they use too. They're like, "Yeah, Biden's old, but look how old Donald Trump is," which is a legit counter argument that Trump supporters got to reconcile with, right? But anyway, I'll ramble enough. I'll pass. Do
you think they're not hearing about the other critiques? Because this plays into how you can tell that the media is not on our side. Because know they're hearing other critiques, but they're selectively not putting those on. And ask yourself, if you're media and you're here in the Constitution, you're here, the press is supposed to be helping the people know what the government is doing, but you're obscuring the most critical critiques of this candidate and trying to act like it's just age. Go ahead.
That's a great point. That's a great point. I'm gonna expand on that. Imagine if the corporate media, and I'm talking about like the change in consciousness, right? Imagine what would happen in the corporate media instead of talking about his age, and he was like, "Yeah, the American people are concerned about the Willow Project. We polled about the Willow Project." That would change the entire like Overton window. More people would be talking about it, but instead they're like, "Oh, most people are concerned about his age." Imagine if they said, and they ran stories about how, didn't we had criticism of Trump's ICE funding? You know, Joe Biden fund ICE more than Donald Trump. Does that concern you? Imagine they polled that. Imagine they asked the question to Democrat voters: does it concern you that Joe Biden is funding the ICE more than Donald Trump? Nigga, a ton of Democrat voters, I think, would say yes. And then they can do stories like, a lot of Democrats are worried about Joe Biden funding ICE more than Donald Trump. That would be a completely different conversation, but they purposely suppress any substantive criticisms of their oligarchs. Meanwhile, I think I made a point. We can continue the video, CJ.
Than the concerns over President Biden. But in 2020, Biden won more because of who he wasn't than of who he was. And in a head-to-head matchup, Biden leads Trump by the same 4 points that he defeated him by in 2020, 49-45. In a matchup against Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, you can see here it's 47-47. I'll tell you in a few minutes what that difference is and who are those swing voters. One thing that doesn't appear to be changing voters' minds so far is Donald Trump's federal indictment. Just 34% of a positive feeling towards Donald Trump, 56% feel negatively. Guess what? This hasn't changed a bit in about...
This is their report card. You're failing at your job. This is your report card. And what did he say? It has not changed a bit as he circles it. He is devastated. Maybe this is why he's leaving Meet the President. He's like, oh, damn it. We can't get this shit to budge. That's why I'm over it.
Everyone's going.
Yes. Let's continue. And right here. Sorry, guys. Switch tabs.
Out a year. And although a majority of voters overall, 55%, have real concerns about these federal charges against Trump, just 23% of Republicans do.
This is the number that matters.
Dude, that's actually a fucking ton, dude. Like, if you think about it, and the thing is, they're bitching about this, but if you really think about it, 1 out of 5 Republicans caring about that. That's a lot. You should be happy you got that number, sir. You should be lucky you got that number. And then the overall number, obviously, that's embarrassing. And this is where like most of us at like 45% with minor or no, because like this is not a proletariat issue at all. This should not keep you up at night at all.
This is why I don't understand. I don't understand why literally I watched CNN live last night to get some news. The entire show was Trump. Not any other segments, the entire show. Yeah. Do you think the 77% of GOP voters are watching CNN? Like, whose mind are you changing? You are only speaking to the people who are already on your side. It's why I don't understand the dynamic, because they're doing this stuff and it's like, this is not changing anything. That's because they're not watching you.
I know you've seen this on Morning Joe, because Joe Scarborough keep doing this thing where he's like, why isn't Ron DeSantis, why aren't the other Republican primary challengers calling out Trump on this Democratic talking point? And it's like, because they're in a Republican primary. And it was a freaking out, because when the indictment happened, it was like, oh my God, it's shameful that Ron DeSantis and all his other rivals are covering for him. He's like, the hubris of these people that think that Republicans going to repeat Democratic Party talking points. If they did that, they would be toast in the primary. Like Chris Christie is doing a lot of that, but he's toast. He's standing no chance.
Nick, did you see yesterday he was at a rally or somewhere doing a speech, and they booed him when he started talking about Trump. And they put it on the news, on CNN. Maybe we'll get to another segment then, but yeah, they booed him. And then CNN brought him on to talk about it. And it's like, it doesn't matter. I'm like, and I've said this before. Chris Christie is a media plant. Chris Christie on his own would not be running. Chris Christie is running so they can do what they did yesterday. Have him go out and say some Trump stuff and bring him on the show. Let's talk about it. When him and Pence are literally getting some of the worst numbers out of the entire GOP primary.
They gave Chris Christie a town hall, but they're not giving RFK a town hall. Like, Chris Christie stands no chance at all. But CJ, you really nailed it, because he really a candidate that's just there to fill headlines. He's gonna repeat the Democratic line on Trump, and they're gonna write headlines about, oh, Chris Christie telling it as it is, as he continued to stink in the Republican primary field. Well, let's continue to do.
I think they mentioned it right here. Let's see. I think they mentioned Chris Christie. He goes through a bunch of numbers here, so let's see.
In primary voters, just 16% told us they have a major concern about this. Instead, 64% of Republican primary voters call the investigations into Trump a politically motivated attempt to stop him. We asked the same question. And
look at this, man. You see why they got it really bold and red? Because they want to make sure, look, this is not regular people, but politically motivated attempt to stop Trump. 64%.
Once again, I think that number is great. I don't know why they're complaining. Like, and I'm making this point for a reason to show how unhinged they are. Like, because as someone who's non-biased observer, like, just think about it. Like, take the bias out. Only 2 out of 3 thinking politically motivated. I mean, 1 out of 3 Republicans are like, actually, I don't think it's politically motivated. That's a lot, dude. That's a fucking lot of people. Like, I did not consider Republicans to be that rational. So I'm making this point to show you how unhinged the liberal establishment is. Because what number do you expect? Chuck Todd?
But the thing is, I think if you're a person who's in a professional managerial class, you ever see these students who are, I want an A in every class, like everything, that's these types of professional managerial class. So it doesn't matter if this is a decent number. They want A's, Nick. They want A pluses, Nick. They want A plus pluses. That's what they want. So unless this number is flipped, they want this number to be 64%, which is just unreasonable. It's unreasonable.
Yeah, let me know in the chat, but I honestly think 1 out of 3 Republicans saying, I don't think this charge is politically motivated. I think that's actually pretty impressive. But anyway, let's continue.
In April, it's just 4 points less than what it was in April. 31% say it's important to nominate a candidate who will not be distracted by legal problems and can focus on beating Biden. Pay attention to that 31% a minute here. So I'm going to show you something in a minute. And though only half of the Republican Party, 49%, say the Republican Party should continue to be led by Donald Trump, the not Trumpers are not coalescing around any of Trump's rivals. Trump overperforms these numbers. In the Republican race for president, Trump leads Florida Governor Ron DeSantis by 29.
Look at this, man. Let me let it.
Chris Christie have 5%, bro.
Yeah.
What? Dude, I'm shocked by that. Dude, I am shocked. My conscience is shocked by Chris Christie.
Well, he's getting a lot of free media again because he is a media plant. He is a media plant. So just based off him being a media plant, he went from 1% to 4 percentage points up. Just because he's bringing him on, and that 5% are I think he's tapping into that 31%. He's just getting a slightly larger, the slightly larger. But he's never gonna break double digits. None of these clowns are ever gonna break double digits.
I'll be 100% honest with you guys. I am fucking shocked. I'm in shambles that Chris Christie got 5%. Well, let's continue.
He's got 51. DeSantis, the only other candidate in double digits with 22. This is actually nearly a doubling of what the margin was in April. Trump was under 50. It was 15 percentage points. And in a head-to-head matchup in a Republican primary, Trump almost has a 2-to-1 lead here, 60% to 36. So again, 49% say they don't want Trump to lead the party, and yet he's overperforming that number. There are never Trumpers voting for Trump over DeSantis. By the way, the DeSantis voter profile there doesn't match the campaign he's running, for what it's worth.
Wait, they say the DeSantis voter. This is the DeSantis voter. I guess they're saying is persuadable, is independent, women without college degrees, voters 65 plus, swing state voters, and somewhat disapproval of Biden. Go ahead,
CJ. There's a giant disappointment from the media because they expected there would be the giant DeSantis versus Trump camp, right? But that's not the reality. Like, there was this infamous Fox segment where this guy went down and like, you like DeSantis? Like, yeah, you support Trump. What? And you trying to set them up to say, who you like Ron DeSantis? Yeah, I think he's a great government. Who do you support, Trump? Like, and that's the thing. They think it's either or for these people. A lot of people like DeSantis, but they like Trump more. And this lack of clash that didn't happen is kind of disappointing to the media and the liberal establishment, like Chuck Todd. And I can kind of tell from the voice. But anyway, go ahead, CJ.
Yeah, it's a lot of disappointment because it almost feels, and you can see this in Joe Scarborough a lot. It almost feels like they are sorely disappointed that DeSantis is not rising. Like they are disappointed. And the thing is, Nick, DeSantis in a lot of ways will be worse than Trump, and they're disappointed in that. That tells you this is nothing about policy. That tells you this is not about policy. They simply don't want Trump there because he's outside of the bounds of the military and industrial complex just publicly. Now, he's going to go along with him, but he's talking against Ukraine. He can't have that because public sentiment will go down about it. He's talking against certain things that and talking about imperialism, not covertly. He's saying, y'all need to divvy up some money for this NATO thing. We're paying for everything. That's not what they want you to say as a president. So he is breaking the veneer of being, pretending not to be an imperialist. He's just saying, yeah, we're an imperialist. Yeah, we are. And what's the problem? That's how he is, and they don't want that. So let's continue. It's almost done.
Meanwhile, the groups where Trump does lag behind DeSantis in that matchup against Joe Biden do offer another warning sign for Trump and the Republican Party if he is the nominee, because they represent the most of the persuadable electorate. They're independent. They're women without college degrees, voters over 65, swing state voters, and voters who say they only somewhat disapprove of Joe Biden's presidency. So like the soccer moms and office park dads of past cycles, this cycle's key swing voter may be these somewhat disapprovers because they were huge in the 2022 midterms. And right now they're picking Biden over Trump.
Now, let's pause here and I'll bring the video down after I make this point. This is who the Democrats go after instead of going after their constituency. Instead of trying to pull in more Black and Latino votes by offering something to them, they go after, what did he just say? Soccer moms and whatever he referred to as dad. Persuadable, independent, women without college degrees, over 65 in swing states. Who is that describing but white women? Who is that describing but white women? And that's who they target every single time. And that white suburban female vote, as you always say, Nick, they overwhelmingly go for Donald Trump, Nick. White women are the one who's putting him in office, Nick. That's who's doing it. And that's who the Democrats go after to try to break that loose. And it's just simply not going to happen. And it continues. Now, continuing along the panic mode, let's now go to, I want to bring up the Latino vote first. But actually, can you tell us what this article is about? I don't know if you were going to bring this up later.
They're just showing some more desperation. This is just funny to read real quick. I saw this while I was doing my daily read. And it's a desperation article by Michael Tomasky. And he said, Democrats, wake the hell up. President Biden has amassed a historic record in his first term. Why aren't he and his party bragging about it? They're not bragging about it because they know it's bullshit. They are, unfortunately, trying to. But there's a sense of shame. And that's why I can't wait till this shit really get closer to election when you guys see AOC do the stump speech. Because remember the shame that was on Rashida Tlaib's face when a fucking right-wing broadcaster like, hey, Rashida, aren't you betraying young people by supporting Biden, and the shame she had on her face that she was forced to walk away? and that's what's going to happen.
That was glorious.
You're going to have Bernie Sanders that are going to be forced to explain why he supports Jim Crow Joe over his good friend, Dr. Cornel West. So this is going to be very interesting to see over the next few.
I wonder what Burn Identity on Twitter is going to do about that. Because when Bernie endorsed Joe Biden, she took 2 days off of Twitter. Yeah, she literally tweeted it out. I was like, "Oh God, I'm not gonna say that, guys." I wonder what she's gonna do when that actually comes up. That's gonna be a sight to see. For those that don't know who Burn Identity, it's an inside joke.
If you're still on that Bernie bandwagon right now, it's gonna be tough.
It's gonna be tough. All right, so next,
go ahead. No, go ahead, CJ. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say part of the full panic mode, and voters are just like leaving Biden and the Democratic Party. Dems are losing nose and growth. So let's listen again. A bunch of case study QB clips. Shout out case study QB. I think he's on vacation. Have a good vacation, sir. Let's listen.
Now, analysts say Democrats need to do even more if they want to win the 2024 election. The Cook Political Report highlights a study that analyzes Latino voter trends in key battleground states. Amy Walter writes, quote, "It paints a worrisome picture for Democrats who may be hoping that increased Latino turnout in 2024 will cement their gains in key battleground states. For years, the working assumption among many campaign professionals was that Latino voters stayed home in midterm elections, but showed up in presidential elections. As such, a district or county with a significant Latino population would perform much better for Democrats in a presidential year than a midterm. But Republican candidates can make significant inroads with these voters, especially if they put a full court persuasion press on them, while Democrats only engage these voters at the very end of the campaign." Joining us now, Communications Director of the Libre Initiative, a national advocacy group for Latino Americans, Wadi Gaitan. Thank you so much for being on. So what is the state of Latino support for Democrats? Are Democrats losing Latino voters?
Yes, they definitely are. I mean, the reality is I think many Democrats thought that voting demographic was baked in their favor. And what we're seeing is actually that more Latinos are actually identifying as independent, as swing voters. They're really willing to hear from both parties. It's important for Democrats to understand that this is a loss in the sense that before they could sort of count at these voters and these universes as sort of a get out the vote demographic, that towards the end of the election, they could just make that call and they would show up. But the reality is that is not the case. They're going to have to court the vote and they're going to have to work hard for it.
You know what's coming out more and more, Nick, is that just like what do we call virtue signaling? That's just not working. I mean, we're an example of that. Like, they're trying to get us to go with Marianne was like, no, man, no more of this virtue signaling and you just saying stuff and we're gonna hop on board. But and you seeing that in the numbers with the Latino community. They're like, nah, man, you need to bring something material or you're not getting my vote. And I'm just going to go. Like, what's the difference? Like, I'm not saying go to the Republicans, but from their point of view, a person like that is saying, you're not delivering nothing on me. Yeah, Republicans might be against immigration, but are they going to deliver something else for me? Because y'all not doing anything. Why not try? Like just think about it. Like, what do I have to lose? I'm getting literally nothing from you. Literally nothing. If I go over here, if I get nothing from them, what do I lose? At least I'm going to try. Like, that's the perspective. Go ahead.
I'll show you guys this poll that this story was written about an hour or so ago. Trump tops Biden for the first time in morning consult poll. So this is not good because I explained before, you're going to need to be winning these polls by 4 or 5 points to deal with the Electoral College. They're down by 3. They're down by 3, and the election hasn't really started yet. And you see the ton of panic. Here's the graph here. It says President Trump took a 3-point lead over Biden in the hypothetical head-to-head matchup. This is why the sheepdogs are important. Sorry to be rude again. But this is why people like Marianne and potentially RFK challenging Biden is good for Democrats. Because when they lose, they're going to need their endorsements to help push them over the line. And we don't want to participate in that, which is why we don't think it's wise to support people running Democrats. Because they're going to really need that. But Trump is up in the morning consult poll. This is devastating for the Democratic Party. And also, this is a few days late, but I wanted to have a chance to explain why this is extremely important. I saw Due Distance. They did a great video on this a few days ago. You realize that Dr. Cornel West is already at 6%?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Do you guys know how ridiculously crazy that is? But before the election really starts, he already at the point where you need to get federal funding at 5%. What does science tell us? What do revolutionary science tell us? Revolutionary science tells us we only need around 5 to 15% of an engaged population to really start revolutionary change. So we actually get an engaged third party that's actually floating around 5 to 15%. That's real. I think these numbers still really loose, but once this really get closer solidified, do you guys understand what kind of threat this is? Which is why me and CJ and RBN, we said from the beginning, why are we fucking around with Democrat candidates? Why not start running the score up here now instead of chasing a fantasy land where you're going to win a primary where you're not allowed to debate? Well, I actually find it pretty impressive. I just tweeted. I actually find it impressive how much RFK is living rent free in the head of many of the liberals.
Yeah.
I actually give him more credit than I really did in terms of how much he'll make them people sweat. But I'm telling you guys, we need a movement to start from the beginning to run the score up. And I'm very terrified because I've already seen some hints that the only thing going to happen, you're going to big bill coalition, you're going to kill it by endorsing the Democratic nominee, and you're not going to ship people there. Right, despite all the praise or all the good things that he's been doing recently.